Good evening, everyone. We're going to ask that everyone please stand as Councilman Dale leads us in prayer and the pledge. Okay, again, thank you for being here tonight. We're going to go ahead and jump into our agenda. First item on the agenda is to consider approval of minutes of the January 18, 2022 regular session.
After reviewing the minutes, I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes as presented on the January 18th, 2022 regular session.
I'll second that.
I have a motion by Councilman Dale, second by Councilman Chappelle. Madam Secretary, record a vote.
Aye.
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 Motion carried unanimously. We'll now close that item, move to item 2. Item 2 is to consider calling a general election for May 7, 2022 for the election of council member places 3, 4, and 5. And this
is so that we can contact the county to let them know that we will have an election. This is just to call it to order for those that want to run.
Thank you. Okay, floor is open for a motion.
I'll move the calling of general election May 7th, 2022. I'll second that.
Motion made by Councilman Adams, second by Councilman Chappelle. Madam Secretary, record a vote.
Aye.
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 Motion carried unanimously. Item 2 is now closed. Item 3 is to consider approval of plaque for Sisk Memorial Bridge. Mr. Buck.
Council, thank you for allowing me to be here. Lanny Buck with KSA. What we've got on the agenda tonight is just to discuss plaque and the wording, and the approach that we were taking for a plaque for Sisk Memorial Bridge, which is the bridge that is at the golf course over the spillway that was laughingly called the Dam Lake project, the Dam Lake Bridge. So anyway, what you've got in your packet is some wording and what we were thinking, kind of a rendering of what we would think would look like on the plaque. And then the following, even though it's not, well, we've got a quote, and then after that we've got a stone that we're proposing as one option to put this plaque on, which essentially it will be up so that about the height you could read if you were going by on a golf course or walking or whatever like that. The intent was to put it on the west side of the bridge. It'll be on the southwest corner of the bridge in one location.
Lanny, is that just a, I guess just a formatting thing where the top line where the word bridge is not completely on the, okay, that's just a formatting issue?
Yes, mine's got it all on one page.
Yeah, we had our public relations lady, Suzanne, word pen this and write it up and so forth. And I think her idea is that the Mount Pleasant might be colored and the rest of it broad. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
For the public, this is this boulder that we're talking about, a rock, is 29 by 18 by 28, and they call it kind of a sunset red as far as the rock goes. And then this will be a bronze plaque. There's a single plaque that will go on the polished rock. And, the, bronze will be, plaque will be 24 by 12 is what it will be. And it's kind of a dark brown with the, raised lettering and all, so it'll be there, take the weather and all over the years.
Lanny, does the price on here also, even though I don't see a line item for it, does it include the labor to set it and the labor to do the etching or for the plaque?
I'll go back and double check, but it's been a few weeks, but that was an installed price, yes. And we did actually get 3 bids on this, and this was the low bid. The other 2 were at least $600 higher than this one.
And they are a local company, I might mention.
Yes, they are a local company, and we actually went to them, and they were extremely cooperative. So we were well pleased with at least the effort they've given us to work on this project with us.
Ed had shared the wording of the plaque with me. I shared it with the family as well, and they were pleased with the wording.
One thing, Lanny, up here, I know this don't have anything to do with it, but the quote here under the monument info has got some verbiage there that's not pertaining to this particular, which is, immaterial, but you might want to clean that up before the.
Yes, sir, we'll get that cleaned up before we do it.
Okay, do we have any further questions? Okay, I think that's awesome.
At this point, we need to decide when you want to have a little ceremony. We'll get it all ready, and as soon as we get it ready to be put in, we'll get it put in, and then we'll cover it and have a little program out on the bridge.
It might not be a bad idea to maybe coordinate this with one of the golf tournaments that we have. I know we always have one there around the Memorial Day, and that may be, we may not want to wait that long, but then again, you've got a lot more participants and people out, and so that might just be a thought going forward here.
Probably if we could coordinate with the country club, get with the country club and find out what would be a good date for them to be able to turn as many people out to dedicate the bridge as possible.
Will do.
All right, I think that is awesome. We're going to go ahead and open the floor for a motion on this item.
I make a motion that we approve the plaque for Sisk Memorial Bridge.
I'll second that motion.
Motion made by Councilman Chappelle, second by Councilman Dale. Madam Secretary, record a vote, please.
Aye.
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 Motion carried unanimously. We'll now close that item. At this time, we'll be going to item 4 on the agenda, which is to consider award of bid for I-30 storage tank rehabilitation.
Thank you, Council, once again for allowing me to be here. Lanny Buck with KSA. What you have before you is the bid tabulation and results for the I-30 storage tank rehabilitation and ammonia building. We had a total of 8 bids that bid on this. The apparent low bidder was Tanksco out of Fort Worth for $814,800. This is actually, we verified, this is a contractor we've worked before under a different name, but it is a contractor that we are familiar with and has done a really good job in the past. So I'm at least pleased to announce that.
Lanny, do they give an estimated time frame from start to finish on this particular project yet?
So we have a time frame, of course, in the contract itself. I don't remember that number off the top of my head, but I think it's 180 days, but I'll double check that.
So they have done work for us.
So, yeah, what's the current age of the tank?
That's that's something we've talked about before here. We need to have maintenance programs, and 20 years is too long. You got to do it before that, and 40 years is way too long. So you already knew that.
So more than 20, but less than 40?
with that maintenance, as the old saying goes, you either pay me now or pay me later.
That is a true statement. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and, open the floor for a motion on this item if there's no further questions.
I'll move the award of the bid on the I-30 storage tank to Taxco Incorporated.
I will second that bid.
Okay, we have a motion made by Councilman Adams, second by Councilman Chappelle. Madam Secretary, record a vote, please.
Aye.
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 Motion carried unanimously. We'll now close item 4 on the agenda. Our next item on the agenda is public comments. At this time, we have anyone in the audience that would like to come up and speak at this time, please, note your name for the public.
Name, rank, serial number, social security, everything, buddy, from you.
Under oath and on TV, buddy.
My name's Buddy Blue, and am I allowed to take just a second and tell them what I think of them? I think y'all are awesome. I got in here and Tim had to let me in, but it made me feel good to know that I know every one of y'all. I count all of you some of my best friends. Henry's got a niece that has one of the best father-in-laws in the state of Texas. Sherry, I think of your family always, your dad, your granddad, JR, and Gladys, wasn't that the grandma? We've known each other a long, long time. Mr. Thatcher, we've worked together some on school business with the city. I'm glad you're doing better. Is this your first night back? Good, congratulations. I had it too, but not bad at all, so bless your heart. Mayor, known you a long time. Thank you for your service. All y'all, every one of you, thank you for what you do. I'm gonna skip. Jerry Dale, we've been friends a long time. You sang at my father-in-law's funeral. Now you're in line to sing at mine, but don't schedule anything up right yet. Thank you for serving. Brother Galen, he used to live, he was raised in the house that we raised Jacob in. In fact, y'all's bedrooms, we found out were the same room. We've known each other when your dad had the original Randy's, and then he got a bright idea he'd come and open up a hamburger joint on Jefferson. And before he opened that, I was in 36 breeches. Well, not anymore. Thank you, sir. We appreciate the service, sir. I think that's it. Oh, no. Brother Tim Dale, when did you open Western Sizzling? You opened in 86? We met then, and y'all know how he was. He'd come to the table, make sure you were happy, make sure the glass was full, and the meal was fine, and all that stuff. We became friends then, and have known each other very close ever since. Now, I was 5 years old when he opened the restaurant, and he'd pat me on the head, but no, I appreciate your service, Tim. You're a good friend. Thank you. Let me tell you why I'm here. Just an idea, but you guys have to handle it. I cannot. I want to ask y'all to look into the possibility if the city can request through the railroad, it's called a quiet zone in Mount Pleasant. Some of you guys know all about this. I knew nothing about it. So I decided I'd call. Well, you know, you just can't look in the phone book on the railroad and they go get a number. So I didn't know who to, and I was ashamed to call one of y'all to say, can you tell me? So I drove down to 3rd Street and straddled the railroad track. And that little bitty blue sign that's up there that says, if the arms are down and not functioning right, call this toll-free number. So I did, and it was automated, of course, and I left my name and my number, and knowing I would never get a phone call back from the railroad. The next morning at 8 o'clock, my phone rang, and it was a lady representing the railroad, and asked how she could help me. Then I asked her, told her where I lived, and is there such a thing as a quiet zone? That's all I knew to call it. And she said, oh yeah, we have over 1,000 across the continental U.S., different communities that apply for that. And I asked what it entailed, and she said, well, you can't do it because it has to be, the city has to take this. And I asked, well, what are the qualifications? She said, Mr. Blue, I can't. I have to talk to the city a representative with the city about that. Not, we can't do that to individual. It has to be the city entity to do that. And I would request just look into it. I don't have any idea what there is involved. Some of you guys may know, and I don't know that it's been done, asked or requested here before. I asked the lady and she could not find any information where we had ever requested a quiet zone. And I've tried to think of a negative in this, and y'all will have to decide. I can't think of any negative way that this would hurt our city if we had, I'm just going to tell you what I thought, a time from 11 at night to 5 in the morning where there'd be no engine whistle. It's on the crossing. And I could imagine how that would change the sleep habits of folks. You hear the train? Everybody hear the train come through? You do, I know. It'll wake you up sometime. So I'd appreciate if y'all would just look into it. If I can help in any way you know how to get a hold of me, I'll help any way I can to look into this and see how we can get this. I can't imagine how that would help the prospects of this if that happened. She said told me that all over, named, every state has them. There's one in Milwaukee that has a quiet zone 24 hours a day. They don't ever blow. There's one in outside Phoenix, Arizona. All it is a crossroads, and there's a post office and a house that the postmaster lives in, and they don't have a city. They're not incorporated. And he got a quiet zone. So we're not too small and not too big to ask for this. So I'd appreciate if you guys would consider that, and like I say, if I can help. I don't know where the boundary would be. I know there's folks on Stevens. Y'all know where that's at on? Now they're right at the track, and that's a loud thing. At night, last night, the train comes through. We've got some engineers. I don't know where they come from, but some of them are very considerate. You'll hear them when they get to Mastercraft. Whoop. And they don't blow again till they get going out. Whoop. That's it. Now we've got a couple of engineers that I declare their mother-in-law must live by the tracks, because and they never let off till they get to Preferred. So I think it'd be beneficial if we could at least look into it and see. I shouldn't have said that. I apologize. But anyhow, any questions? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I don't have the number with me. I punched it in my phone that day because I'd never called it before. Yeah. You do that, straddle the tracks. That probably wasn't the smartest thing I ever did, but anyway. No, I did not. No, yes, sir.
I was just going to ask, though, did she not give you a direct number so we don't have to call 800 and leave a voicemail? Okay. All right.
There's got to be I'm guessing online something. There's got to be available, surely, with them to go in that avenue, because this is not the number, because that's when the lady called, she said, you're not talking to the right department. This is on the cross arms that are malfunctioning. You have to get another department that does the quiet zone. And then she just answered my question for her, so she couldn't give me any more information than that. And I don't know, somebody with the railroad, just look it up and see what you can find out. Yes, sir.
Let me ask you another question. You called the 800 number to leave a voicemail. When she called back the next morning, do you have that number? Is it different than the 800 number you called? Yeah, flip phones will show caller ID. That's all it'll show.
I believe it came up private. Yeah. I believe I'm right. I think it came up private. So, anyhow.
Well, I believe it'd be altering for for hundreds of citizens in our community if we could get that. And I definitely think it's something we need to. Buddy and I have talked about it several times, and I appreciate you bringing it to us and coming tonight, making the presentation, Buddy. But if we could just ask, and don't hurt to do that. And hopefully they'll come back and say, "You bet, we'll do it," and we can fill out all the stuff in a few months. It's we're getting a lot of good compliments, and we'll call it the Buddy.
And there may be it may be cost prohibitive. I'm sure the railroad's going to have some kind of we may have to install the little alarms. I think they're on the cross arms, they used to be that way here, where they just ding, 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 they're there at the pole. Well, I bet that's probably what that is something that way, because the horn doesn't blow on the locomotive. It's on the crosses themselves. So, and I don't know if they charge us, if they make us pay for that. I don't know. So it may be cost prohibitive, but I do appreciate y'all's time and looking into it.
Yeah, it's definitely worth looking into, and we thank you for bringing that to us.
Hey, little Buddy Blue, come blow your horn.
You're so kind.
Appreciate you, buddy.
Do we have anyone else that would like to come up at this time?
Well, I was planning on coming to the meeting before I found out I was no longer on the agenda. So I figured y'all might have some questions since I didn't see you in January. So I figured I'd give you a quick update. We've reached a turning point. The surface preparation and priming is complete. We're in the process of applying the second coat of coating on the tank. Should have our finish coat, the final coat should be in within either this week or next week. I don't know how much the weather's going to affect shipping on that. But my intention, like we discussed several times before, is the focus is on all the wetted areas of the tank where water's going to be present on the backside. We're focusing on finishing those areas. That way we can go ahead and get the tank back into service while we finish up what's left. This week's weather is going to be an issue, but if we have manageable weather, I can truly see us wrapping the project up toward the end of the month. So that's my objective, is to try to have the wetted area ready for the tank to be back in service within the next 2 to 3 weeks, and then have the final coating of everything that's left and the final cleanup on site towards the end of the month, beginning of March.
White stripe around, doesn't have to be sanded off, that's not paint.
The white that you see on the tank right now, that's intermediate coat. So when on this particular coating system, we have a prime coat, which is a greenish color, and that's a zinc. And then we have an intermediate coat, which is a urethane. And then we'll go on top of that with it's a polymer-based coating called hydroflon, and that will be the finish coat. So what you see right now, everything that you see that looks white, it's actually a light gray, and the whole tank will be that color before it changes to the final color, which is tank white.
And that has kind of like a sheen to it, almost like, it's not really a gloss, but it's got a little sheen to it, correct?
It has a high gloss, and it is the particular material that was chosen is a high gloss retention. So part of the expensive material is the fact that you get the same gloss retention that you would had you put a clear coat on the project. So the tank should be shiny and should retain color, no chalking or anything, for at least the next 10 to 15 years.
Do y'all do the actual decal, or do you have somebody else come in and do the actual decal work?
We have the dust pattern, and we'll be going up and painting that on the tank.
And we'll, at the end of that 2 to 3 week completion, with the antennas and all back up.
As far as the antennas go, I think, what I'm trying to do right now is our primary focus is on painting the tank. But we also have containment that's on the tank that still has to be removed. So we're going to be removing containment on periods of the day where we cannot paint. We're going to be in constant work doing both simultaneously. Once the containment is down off the tank, from provided that the antenna people can work on it during time that we can't paint, or following putting water back in the tank, to where we could press a pause button, have the tank in service, press a pause button, let them come in and put whatever they want to put back up there, and then finish out what we've got to finish.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I think to your point, I guess when you're calling containment, you're talking about all the structure work you had with all your cabling system and everything for the canopy and all. Yeah, I think the tower companies would not want to even entertain trying to get on there with all that getting in their way, because they're going to probably be using a crane to get in there to relift all the antenna equipment. So yeah, it'd be better to wait till that's all taken down.
Well, the primary issue is we don't want them to put anything up, and then when we're taking the containment down, that we damage something. So, anybody else have any other questions?
I talked to Lanny just a little bit before we got started here. So I've probably been one of the more vocal people about where we are deadline wise, and I'm not going to go there tonight because it doesn't do us any good. It doesn't help y'all. It doesn't help me. So if you're telling us that by the end of February you'll be completed and done, torn down and finished, correct?
That is correct. As long as we don't have, horrendous weather conditions. As I said before, I think once we have the tank where we can put it back into service for use and they can get the antennas back on, I think once we get to that milestone, I think the city's concern on time, becomes a lot less. It's still important to us because we're paying for that time, but from the city's perspective, once you have your tank and you have your antennas back on top, if it runs over into March, it's not going to affect the city.
Before he finishes, I know he's. But for the antennas to go back on, you need cabling going up one of the legs or whatever, and so seems to me like we need to get bulb finished and the legs done and you out of there before they go back up on.
If the antennas are going back, and I would assume the cabling is going to be going back to the location they were previously, we can finish that area of the tank. Once we have the wetted areas done, we can do that side of the tank first.
Decal and everything will be up on the thing before the antennas go on, and tank to be filled at that time.
The only thing we need to confirm there is with the wireless carriers, the tenants, is to confirm with them that they would be putting all their transmission lines back in the same physical location, whether it's the leg or wherever it may be, so that way you can accommodate for them.
Based on where they have all of their equipment on the ground, they're going to have to run them in the same place they had them.
Okay, do we have any further questions?
I'd like to encourage you to let's try to hold to that deadline as close as we can. I don't want to put anything out that I want you to feel good about trying to get there, and I want us to feel good about you getting there. But I'd kind of thought about some other stuff, but I think we'll just try to get you to the deadline and then get you finished, and then we'll go from there and decide how we handle it from there.
And whether it makes any difference or not, I will be personally handling all the wrap up on the project. So I'll be on the project every day to see that we get where we need to be. I won't be, they won't be using my services on any other projects through the completion of this project.
And if I could, I know Lanny had said, I'd really like for Lanny to check in with you and have a meeting with you at least once a week to see where we're at. Try to keep up with how many bad weather days we've had. If there's any day that you can't work because of weather, you need to notify Lanny so we can, I'd like to go from here forward, and I'd like to know every meeting how many bad weather days we actually had to get to the 28th. That'll give us a better idea of what to do when we get finished with this.
One last question I had. who will be doing the coordinating with the tenants, the carriers, when you're ready for them to come in? Will that be y'all, or will that be Lanny and his team to reach out to the tenants and say, hey, we're ready for you to come in and put your equipment back on the tower?
Lenny?
Do you have that contact information? I guess a good question.
I don't, but my boss does.
Okay, any further questions? Thank you, sir. We appreciate you.
You're very welcome. I'll be back on the 15th, so
Do we have anyone else that would like to come up at this time? You got anything? Okay, if not, we're going to go ahead and close this section, public comment, and move on to item 6 on the agenda, which is the city manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to point out too, I would have done it earlier, but when we were talking about water towers, but the water tower on Highway 271, the elevated storage tank, I don't know how, have we ever repainted that one? That one actually has holes in it. We were putting it off, but we're thinking we have to go out and do some emergency patching on it, because it's already got rust gone through, because we should have done it. I think it was built in 90-something, wasn't it? And so, 20 years out, we should have redone it. But anyway, it's rusted through. So that's going to be an emergency expense, just to patch it and then get on it later. The other thing I want to mention, you all know about it, but tomorrow is the State of the County and City luncheon for the Chamber. It's out at Region 8 at, is it 11:30? And just wanted to let you know that that's there, and we have chairs for anybody that wants to go. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Anyone have any questions for Mr. Thatcher at this time? Okay, we'll go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm going to do this as a public instead of a council person. I'm amazed at how much deferred maintenance Mount Pleasant has been operating for the last several years. And I want the public to know that Mr. Thatcher has done incredibly awesome organizing and trying to get us caught up, and kept us in a fairly good budget, because all this stuff is expensive, and the deferred maintenance to get it back into shape is more expensive than it would have been to have planned it, put it into the budgets. And so I'd like the public to know that, and even I, with my opportunity to visit with Mr. Thatcher quite a bit, he's really done the city a service more than even I realize. It was egregious, and the deferred maintenance was overwhelming when he got here.
All right, thank you, Council. Okay, at this time, like I said, we have closed the city manager's report, and at this time, we'll be going into executive session. Pursuant to Open Meetings Act, Chapter 551, Texas Government Code, the City Council will recess into executive session to discuss the following: litigation, consult with outside legal counsel retained by the city regarding pending or contemplated litigation or a settlement offer and/or matters in which the duty of the attorney to the governmental body under Texas disciplinary rules of professional conduct of the State Bar of Texas clearly conflicts with Chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code related to water purchase contract. Consultation with legal counsel regarding personal matters involving city officers and/or employees. At this time, the council will go into executive session. The time is now 8 o'clock. The council has reconvened the regular session. There is no action taken in the executive session. At this time, the council is adjourned.